I was a younger man, I actually worked in a retail warehouse-based setting for a certain amount of time. Little did I know that the periods of time there would have been some of the best in my life due to the people that I had met and circumstances that I later found myself in as a result of the time there. These stories are some of the memories of mine that I recollected from then, in no particular order from when they had occurred. Work during the summer was often an unforgettable experience at the warehouse. From either the interior or exterior landscaping areas, there was always plenty to do, and it was always an experience for myself, Andrew, and Daryl. It was an early morning shift, but through the scheduling, all three of us came in around the same time. As the interior and exterior landscaping areas were mostly in good condition from the day and night before, the three of us soon became bored with the lack of work and slow progression of all shifts. The three of us eventually decided to stay in the outdoor landscaping area as it was early enough in the day where there were few customers and no supervisors or even management to check up on us to see what we were doing. We spent a period of time outside the warehouse doing various things when some of the parking lot attendants came up to us and explained that something was found in the far end of the back lot. Andrew thought it was odd that they would actually come over to us for help, and Daryl thought that we shouldn't even help them as that wasn't our area of expertise. I mentioned that we should at least see what happened, as we had some time and the landscaping area wasn't in any real need of us at that particular moment. Andrew clearly had a look on his face. I could naturally tell he didn't want any of us to see what was happening, and Daryl didn't care either way, as we decided to follow the parking lot attendants away from the warehouse. I kept to myself as the group of us walked further away from the actual warehouse itself, as technically the landscaping area was aside the parking lot, and the parking lot itself was the most distant from the warehouse that we all worked at. Even then, cars didn't necessarily park away as far as we were heading out, so we were literally in the furthest corner away from the warehouse, as there were only a few cars parked all around, and the warehouse was about a few minutes walk away. Andrew was shaking his head to me and Daryl, and even Daryl was a bit neutral now about what was happening, as I was about to say something when the parking lot attendants pointed at the ground near some of the trolleys that were used for taking merchandise to or from the warehouse. On the ground was what looked like to be a raw chicken, one that you would buy at the local market with symbols painted all over it and discolored. One of the parking lot attendants mentioned that supposedly there were some people seen nearby the previous night, but nothing was proven. Daryl mentioned that it was probably dumped there from a car or lorry. My eye caught some of the other things nearby as well. Candles, onions, branches with leaves on it. I then shook my head just like Andrew and asked the parking lot attendants what were we looking at. They didn't know and decided to ask us about what we should do. Andrew and Daryl were both visibly upset with all of this as I decided to take command of the situation. Quickly looking at them, I said for them to get rubbish bags and to come back to clean all of this up. Also, they nodded and left. The three of us were just looking at this scene, and Daryl just shook his head and mentioned just what happened here last night. I looked at everything, then spoke. It looked like some sort of ritual. Either it was done out here, or the items from a ritual were disposed of here. Andrew mentioned that further out was an underpass intersection where roads came to and from the warehouse, so something could have been done either here or tossed here without much people noticing. I glanced around trying to survey the scene. Andrew pointed out it a few times and stepped back, mentioning that it could have easily been something of the sort. I looked back to the warehouse and said to the both of them that this was definitely odd. Daryl started to look around, wondering if the three of us were being watched. Then he spoke, asking if we should help clean up the scene with the parking lot attendants. I shook my head, saying that none of us should touch this, just in case it was actually part of some ritual. Daryl let out a small cry of fear, as Andrew said the whole thing wasn't right and we needed to get away as soon as possible. I agreed, and the three of us headed back towards the warehouse and the outer landscaping area. While walking back, I mentioned to Daryl and Andrew that it might be best to take the clothes that we were wearing and wash them once we got back to our homes before reusing them, just in case. Andrew nodded and Daryl commented that he wasn't going to be eating chicken for the next few days.